Having the ability to put on a national team jersey in a World Cup. I mean, for a kid who grew up in a 900 square foot home in Southern California with a single mom who made $30,000 a year, the odds were so incredibly stacked against that ever happening. And it really did hit me walking out the tunnel before the Portugal game. And I was like, wow, I cannot believe I'm standing here. This is incredible.
Hello and welcome to the U.S. Soccer Podcast. My name is David Goss.
And I'm Meghan Klingenberg.
This is the show where every week we bring you in-depth interviews with players, coaches, experts, and take you inside the U.S. men's and women's national team at every level. And boy, do we have an episode for you. A special one. Last week, before the USMNT face-off against Ecuador at Q2 Stadium in Austin, Kling and I recorded our first live show. And who else to do it with but U.S. legend Landon Donovan.
Oh man, David, it was so fun. First of all, to make this about me and not Landon Donovan, I feel like for the first time in a while, I was in front of a crowd and I was just in my element. I was having such a nice time interacting with the crowd, feeling their energy. Austin really brought it for us, and so did Landon. I feel like he was honest, vulnerable, and really talked about stuff that he's never talked about in public before.
Yeah, it was special. And for someone who bought a Landon Donovan 21 jersey back in the day before he was even the US's 10, it was a really special event. It was a special moment. And as you said, I got to learn the answers or stories that I had always wondered and I had never heard before. So why waste any time? Let's get into our conversation with Landon Donovan, from his youth days to his struggles with mental health. And of course, we talked about that water fountain photo.
Hello, does that work? Hi, everyone. This is the official hair debut for everybody to see. I see a few out there that might want to go down the same path.
Landon is open for
Is this a sales pitch?
recommendations later, yeah. All right, hello, Austin. What's up? How you doing? I love it. So excited to be here. I'm Meghan Klingenberg, and this is the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
And I am David Goss, the non-World Cup winner on the stage here. And what a way to get started. This is our first ever live show taping. We're recording at Q2 Stadium in Austin, Texas, right before the U.S. men take on Ecuador and, of course, get a victory. And you are all our first ever live crowd for a U.S. Soccer Pod. So give it up to you. But we have a special guest, and I'm going to leave it to Kling for our introduction.
A man who certainly needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyways. Widely considered the GOAT of the U.S. men's national team. And if I could paraphrase Shakira, the stats don't lie. 157 caps, 57 goals, 58 assists, 3 World Cups, an incredible career, and a remarkable journey from California youth soccer fields to Bradenton, Florida, at the residency program, and all around the galaxy. Give it up for the one, the only, Landon Donovan. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I didn't realize this was the first ever live. Now I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah.
But thank you all for coming out. This is a beautiful stadium. My first time here. Really excited about tonight's game. I'm sure we'll get into that. Excited about the roster now and where the team is going. So it should be a fun night, and I look forward to meeting all of you in a minute.
Yeah, and we're certainly so excited to have you here. And I feel like we have a lot to cover tonight. Your incredible career, your upcoming book, the World Cup in 2026 on home soil. But first, I'd like to start with something non-soccer related. You've recently gone viral for your new look. How are you feeling, man? How is it?
So I'm getting used to it. So for me now, it's normal, my hair. For you all, you're probably like, holy Jesus. There were some moments early where one morning I woke up and I was kind of like looking in the mirror and I jumped and I was like, what the hell is that?
Who invited this guy?
So Since I was 18 years old, I've been losing my hair, and I've never known what it's like to have hair. And so I've been through a journey, and I've tried to, it's not like it has negatively impacted my life, but I didn't realize until the last 2 weeks how much I thought about it and how much it was for someone who probably doesn't need to lack confidence in what they do, but it's brought me so much confidence, and I walk around like with my shoulders back and my head up, and it's really helped. So it's fun. I'm enjoying it. If it doesn't work, I'll take it off and go back. But life's short. I wanted to know what it was like to have hair for a little bit, and we'll see how it goes.
On your show, you brought it up, and Tim Howard was talking about it. Have you not convinced him to do it as well?
Well, we do have our pod on Monday, and he said he might have a surprise for me. So
No.
We'll see. I don't know what that means.
I'll be tuning in.
Should I join?
Would you like to?
I could. Would you right now recommend it?
No, you look good.
Oh,
I look terrible. I was hanging
Wait,
for
why are
dear
you
life. You
saying
look good.
for, oh, you look good? Isn't that the exact thing you want to hear?
no, that was like the nicest thing anyone's
Oh.
ever said to me. So I appreciate it. That was what the all was.
You look good. It fits you. It wasn't fitting me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Should we talk soccer?
Let's do it.
All right. So tonight, the U.S. plays Ecuador, which is fitting because your last ever game for the U.S. was against Ecuador.
Was also on 10-10.
Yeah, and I ran through a swamp to get there before you got subbed off because the traffic was terrible.
Oh, wow.
Coming out of New York. And it was a great game and it was a great moment. But we want to start at the beginning and then we'll get all the way through your career. And the beginning for us was residency in Bradenton. You were the first class, you got down there with special players. What was the experience like? Were you guys like setting the rules and setting the tone as the players and teenagers?
Yeah, so that was 98, I believe. So quite a long time, 27 years ago. For those who maybe aren't familiar, we were 16 years old. The under 17 national team pulled 20 to 25 of us from all over the country and put us together in Bradenton, Florida to be part of a residency program. And that was the first time this country had a group of players, certainly men at that time, that were together at that age in a professional environment. And I was talking to someone about it today. There's no question that group of players who ended up doing better than any group of under 17 men's national team has ever done in the World Cup, benefited massively from that decision. And the timing of it is crazy because had I been born 6 months later, or maybe 6 months prior, I wouldn't have been a part of it, and I wouldn't have had that jump start into my career that I had. So I was so fortunate. I think it was one of the best decisions U.S. soccer ever made. At the time, it was very necessary. It's no longer necessary because you have youth academies all over. But at that time, I think it was one of the most important decisions U.S. soccer ever made.
As you mentioned, it was incredibly unique. It was pretty much the only time that that's ever happened.
Yeah.
And I imagine as players going through that together, you develop some special bonds.
Oh, yeah.
Because nobody else can understand what you were going through. So I wanted to know, like, who were your besties? What were you guys getting into outside of training? And were there shenanigans?
Oh, yeah. So the problem at Bradenton Academy was you weren't allowed to leave the campus, and for good reason. And a bunch of 16-year-old boys who, wanted to get into mischief. Our one treat every week was Sunday afternoon. They'd get you on a bus, and you got to go to Walmart, right? So this was our big moment for the week. So it was a little chaotic in there. Not to mention there were a lot of other athletes there. There were a lot of female tennis players there. It was, there were some shenanigans, but the biggest takeaway for me was how much money I lost to DeMarcus Beasley playing dice and cards. And I would come home, we would get per diem, so we'd get $5 every day per diem. And I'd always come home with no money, and my mom would be like, I thought you got per diem. And like, Bees took it, so.
And that was a learning lesson for you because you never played anything against bees again?
Don't gamble with bees.
Yeah.
Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of U.S. soccer, driving a positive impact in the game and in communities all across the country, helping turn possibilities into achievements and lifting fans, stadiums, and cities to their feet. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America, official bank of U.S. Soccer. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
You were two of the special players that came out of that group. You mentioned it, 1999, U17, you went to the semifinals. It's the furthest any men's age group team has gone. We're hoping the U20s get there. They just got into the quarterfinals. But I think, yeah.
Let's go.
But I think, one, a lot of people forget that you went to a semifinal and what it meant at the time. And for you and Beasley was a huge moment. But what do you remember about that tournament, that run, and like being that first American group to push that far?
It was in New Zealand, and New Zealand's a beautiful country, and we had gone down the year prior and played in a tournament there. So we were familiar with the lay of the land, and we also got to play the host nation, New Zealand, in the opening game, which was incredible. So it was an amazing experience, and for our group of players, we had arguably the best coach I ever had, John Ellinger, as our coach, and we had a motto that we lived by, and it was, we respect everyone, but we fear no one. And that was unique at that time, and it kind of sounds like whatever, but it was a big deal at that time because U.S. soccer was not, certainly on the men's side, was not a powerhouse. But we went and played all over the world. We went to Argentina, we went to Austria, we went to Italy, we went to France, into qualifying in CONCACAF. And we beat teams everywhere we went. And so we truly believed that we were some of the best 17-year-olds on the planet. I mean, we did. And it was naive and it was brash and it was, youth and being stupid. But we really believed that. And that mentality allowed us to succeed at that level. And I'll say that group of players also, there are, I think, 5 of us who went on to play in the full World Cup. Yeah. And that was also unique at that time. So it was a really powerful group, some of the best memories of my life.
And I feel like after that tournament, it was a bit of an inflection in your career. You moved to Europe, you started playing there, and suddenly you were thrust into the spotlight. You were the face of U.S. soccer. And from an outsider's perspective, it feels like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this is happening to me. Was there ever a moment where you're like, oh, I don't really know if I want to be the poster boy?
Yeah, lots. I often say soccer chose me, I didn't choose it. And because I was good at it, I kept doing the next thing and the next camp and the next team and the next opportunity and the next contract. Mm-hmm. But it was never like this crazy dream as a kid that I wanted to be a pro or play in a World Cup. I just loved playing soccer. And so the outcome of being good at it was I just kept getting opportunities to keep playing and going. And so eventually I would find myself at the Under-17 World Cup and then playing in the Olympics and then getting a national team call up. And that was kind of the way it went. So my therapist would always call me the reluctant superstar during those years because I didn't want all that came with it, but I knew it was part of it. I just wanted to play soccer. But there was a piece, all of us knew there was a piece of what we were doing that was bigger and greater, and we were being ambassadors and trying to build the sport. And that at that time, we did not have facilities like this anywhere. And we were all trying to build something together. So it was part of what came with it. But there were a lot of times where I certainly didn't want that, no.
But did that part fuel you? Because I've heard you talk in the past and covered you in MLS, and you've got a trophy named after you and all of that. Of the part of building the sport fuel you, separate from maybe it being you the face of it?
There's a sense of pride for all of us. And the thing at that time, and it truly was true, is from the media to the fans to coaches to players to staff to general managers, we were all trying to lift this thing because there was a time when Major League Soccer, and you'll know this from some of the startup leagues too on the women's side, where Major League Soccer was on the verge of going under. Mm-hmm. And so we were all just trying to keep this thing alive. And we didn't really know what we were doing, but we were just trying to build and promote and sell tickets and get people interested. So that was just part of it.
And to change gears a little bit, I feel like we have to ask you about this. I'm going to apologize now, but I want to talk about that water fountain photo. Yes, that infamous water fountain photo. And I was recently reading an article about it, and the writer was quoted saying, I think it's perhaps the most memorable photo in US men's national team history. And when you were in those clothes that you were styled in, which you don't normally wear, by the way, and you were drinking the water out of that fountain, what was going through your mind?
It's a great question. I'm gonna have to tiptoe around this one. Okay, so for those of you who are wondering what the heck she's talking about, maybe you haven't seen it.
No one's wondering that. Everyone's seen it.
So we do, pre-World Cup, it was 2002, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And speaking to the point about just trying to build the game, if our communications team or the media team said, hey, X, Y, and Z wants you to do an interview, you just did it. Now our players almost never speak to the media, right? So it was totally different at the time. You just did it because you're trying to build the sport. And any coverage was great. So there was, I believe it was the New York Times magazine, like an insert, a Sunday insert or something. They wanted to do a photo shoot with our players. I was a young, naive 20-year-old, so I was like, sure, I'll do it, whatever. So honest, to answer your question, I didn't even think twice about it. It didn't even occur to me in any way. And the problem was, we were on the bus one day, I think going back from training, and this was like a week or two later, and the magazine had come out, and it was online. Those were the early days of online, but it was online, and so our press officer walked through down the aisle of the bus, and he was like, here are the photos. And by the way, he was the one responsible for getting us. Here are the photos, and one by one, you could see guys going, what? And it hadn't occurred to me at all, but it was not the most flattering of images for us.
Or it was extremely flattering.
Depending on who you ask.
Depending on who you ask.
It's all relative.
Yeah, absolutely. So that water fountain's actually in the Soccer Hall of Fame here in Texas.
No.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's in Dallas.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's
So if anyone's looking for a road trip after this, yeah. Well, this is football heritage. This is the history of the game. It's also, Mike's magic stuff because it led to the 2002 World Cup.
Yeah, maybe it was.
Yeah.
Maybe the water was magical.
You went to the quarterfinals. You beat Mexico 2-0. What do you remember?
I got the shirt on. Do you guys see this? Such a great shirt.
It is a great shirt.
Great shirt.
Speaking of, did Clint miss the PK on purpose? Do we know?
I was telling that story today too. Someone was asking me about the Dos Aceto games. I said it's wild how they always just either we'd score late or we'd score 2 goals early and then nobody would get a chance the rest of the game. And then the qualifier we got a penalty and I always took the penalties. And I was like, Clint, you take it. And then of course he missed and it stayed 2-0. So I don't know, ask him.
Okay.
I don't think Clint ever intentionally missed a goal. I can promise that.
All right, well, Clint, if you want to come on and clear it up, the door is always open to you. But from that World Cup run, like what do you think back on? And as we're going into a World Cup, how do you remember that experience?
In 2002?
Yeah.
Oh man. I was so naive and just so excited for the opportunity to play in a World Cup. I'll never forget when Bruce called me to say I had made the team. I called my mom right away and I said, Mom, I was crying, and I said, I made the team. And she was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then from that moment, this is a good and a bad in the way my mind works, but I'm always on to the next thing, and I don't dwell on anything, and I don't intentionally just sit and memorialize things. I'm just on to the next. And from that moment, I was like, great, I'm on the team, but I want to play, and I want to be a star, and I want to score, and so we went on a really great journey leading up to the World Cup, qualifying, and then having the ability to put on a national team jersey in a World Cup. I mean, for a kid who grew up in a 900 square foot home in Southern California with a single mom who made $30,000 a year. The odds were so incredibly stacked against that ever happening. And it really did hit me walking out the tunnel before the Portugal game, and I was like, wow, I cannot believe I'm standing here. This is incredible.
There's something really cool about showing up for your first time and having no expectations, and it sounded like that's what it was for you.
Yeah, and in '98, if you remember, the team had failed miserably. And I was not a part of that, so I didn't have any of the scars, but a lot of the players I played with on the roster had those scars. But for DeMarcus and myself, we were the opposite. We had been named the best 2 players at the Under-17 World Cup, played in the Olympics. We thought we were 2 of the best young players in the world. And so we went into it with that attitude. And it's not like we overtly had this impact on the group, but there was probably part of it where they were like, all right, these guys, they're cocky and they whatever, but like, this is probably good for us. We probably need this. And it was a really good mix of old, veteran, good pros and 2 young kids who were just like, let's go.
Do you remember those days?
Were you alive?
Yeah. No, I was saying, have you had a no
How old do you think I
expectations
am?
tournament?
In 2015, absolutely not. I was the most stressed that I've ever been in my entire life, and I probably aged at least 3 years in those 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's so different though, because we were on total opposite ends of that spectrum, right? Because you guys had massive expectation. Like if you didn't win, you were failing. We're like, if we get out of the group, it's amazing, right? And it's such a different mindset. And I always say sports are about expectations, right? If we got to the quarterfinals, it was a huge success. If you had got to the quarterfinals and lost, it was a huge failure.
Yeah.
That did happen to me.
Me too.
Okay, Landon, we're at about halftime in our show, and I'd like to play a game, if you
Okay.
don't mind. It's what we affectionately call red card or play on. The concept is super simple. I'm gonna give you a scenario or a potentially divisive idea. You just have to tell us red card or play on,
So
and
would
give us a
the
reason
water
why.
fountain photo would be a red card?
Well, to me, that's a play on, so
To me,
we
it's
would
a play
argue
on,
about
too.
it.
It's a
Yeah.
play on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Also, I didn't know about Pablo's pictures and all of that. Yeah.
I think Pablo and Brian McBride are mine's bad.
They're all winners. They're all winners.
They're all winners, okay.
All right, but yeah, you totally get the game. That's exactly
Okay,
what I'm
red
talking
card
about.
or play on?
So we're gonna start here. Pineapple on pizza.
Absolute red card. It's terrible.
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 All right, yeah. You too?
Fruit does not belong on a pizza.
Group says no.
Yeah.
You too?
Well, I'm a New Yorker. It's a tough one for me.
Is that a New York thing?
No,
Absolutely
we
not.
are religious about our pizza,
Oh,
and that's
I
like
love New York
unacceptable. But when I'm outside and the pizza's already bad outside of New York, you could convince me. You felt the snobbiness? Everyone felt the snobbiness together.
He has low expectations.
Definite red card.
Okay, next one. Texas has the best tacos.
Absolute red card.
Oh my God. Austin, how do we feel about this?
You not been to California?
I mean, come on, let's hear, back it
And
up.
San Diego, you can't, it's not even close. You can't compare.
Fish tacos or any taco?
Any taco.
And you thought I was the snob. There you go.
It's just facts. It's not,
I think there's legitimacy to it.
Yeah, I mean, I
What are
had
the
breakfast
tacos-
tacos here this morning,
Oh,
and
you
they were
did?
fantastic.
What's like the signature Texas taco or Austin taco?
Let's hear it.
Like San Diego, it's fish taco.
Shout it out. Go ahead.
Is it breakfast tacos?
We just do every taco
You
well.
don't even have a taco. So
We just do tacos.
There's so many was
Yeah, I
the answer we
love that.
got over here. Big eye roll. Is it breakfast tacos? Is that like the one? Okay, yeah, see? Yeah.
Okay,
A little
last
flour
one.
tortilla, a little egg.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
good. It's good.
Okay, last one. Trashy reality TV.
trashy reality TV.
Do you watch this? Come on.
I don't have Netflix. I have 3 kids. I don't have time to watch TV or shows. But I will say, when I travel, I'm flipping through the channels and I see a trashy reality I will watch.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go.
That's a play on if I've
Not
ever heard it.
often, but when I do. I will watch.
I've only recently gotten into this genre of TV. I've only ever watched it, watched scripted and things like that, but I am obsessed with like the trashier the better right now.
What shows?
Well, I'm watching a few. I'm currently watching, I watched Love Island. and
Okay,
then Love
I was
Island
just gonna
USA.
say, I was on a flight.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm telling you guys this. I
Please
was on a
don't post
flight
everything.
and I was like going through the screen or whatever, and that show came on and I could not turn it off. And it's so dumb. It is
It's
the dumbest show. But
completely
God,
addicting.
it was so fun to watch.
I try and bring it up at least every episode on the US Soccer Podcast. So this is just another,
Yeah.
exactly. Check. Let's move on.
We can bring Lynn Biondolo in for the next one. You guys can all do a recap show. Because this is every single show. She finds a way to sneak it in. Yeah.
Perfect.
So thank you for being there with us for that one. All right, let's dig back in and let's talk about one of the reasons that we're with you is because you're working on a book that you're going to be coming out in March about yourself. Tell us a little bit about the process of like how it's been putting that together.
The process is horrible. So this started in, 2020-ish? And actually the original plan was for it to come out ahead of the 2022 World Cup. And the process is so tedious and long if you decide to do it that way, right? You can put something out quickly, but I wanted to make sure that it was very representative of me. And so skip ahead many years. The initial part of doing interviews and having someone write it with you is actually quite enjoyable because, and I would encourage anybody, even if you don't actually write the book, to just go through your life history and have other people who know you talk about your life history. It's fascinating because they remember things different, they view you differently than you might have thought. It's really, really interesting. So that process is amazing. The editing process is an absolute disaster. So going through and reading the book over and over and over and picking every word and like, oh, maybe I should say that instead of there, and like it's a total nightmare, but I'm obsessive with that stuff and I just wanted to make sure it was done right. I was actually thinking about this morning. Why would you write a book? Like, what are people's motivations to write a book? Some people want to make money. Some people want to tell a story for a certain reason. Some people just want the therapeutic aspect of putting it all on paper and writing it out. My motivation was, I've been, and this is good timing with the hair, I've been very comfortable in my life being vulnerable publicly. And this has hit me a lot in the last week, and I'm not exactly sure why I'm okay with that, but I always have been. I don't know if it's selfish, if it feels good for my ego in some weird, twisted way. I don't know what it is, or if it's just I like to help people in that way. When I first spoke openly about my battles with depression, the amount of feedback in people who said things to me and told me that it helped them was really, really inspiring for me. As something as dumb as wearing a hairpiece, you would not believe how many thousands of messages I've received from people saying, thank you so much, I've really struggled with this my whole adult life. And I appreciate you just being honest and speaking about it. So I enjoy that for whatever weird reason. And I have a really unique story, but also sadly a very common story. I grew up in a single parent household. We were really, really poor growing up. So if someone doesn't know anything about soccer, but they were a single mom or dad growing up, there's a lot in there for you. If there was somebody who was estranged from their father, which I was, my dad was not around growing up, and then had the ability to reconcile, and now we have an incredible relationship, there's something in there for you. Of course there's soccer in the book because it's been a thread through my whole life. People who have dealt with mental health challenges and depression, there's a lot in there about that, and there's some very, very personal details about what that was like for me. And I hope my hope is that somebody will pick it up and read it and it will help them. And that is genuinely the motivation.
I think it's, yeah. I think it's really cool that you feel so comfortable being vulnerable in public, especially as a man. I think it's great that you chose this job of soccer because you're literally putting yourself on display every single week that you're going out there, being vulnerable in front of audiences, in front of people that don't know you, in front of people that are going to give you unsolicited feedback on how you did. So I think that probably this was the best, job that you could have picked.
That's a really good, can I just touch on that? It's a really good point. And I think, and I have to catch myself sometimes too, because now I'm in the media business. And when we talk about people and we're honest and critical, you have to remember that these are human beings who we're putting ourselves out there. And sports are so emotional. And you don't get to stop and think about what you're doing every moment. You're just in the moment, and sometimes you make really dumb decisions, or you do things that you wouldn't have otherwise done. And when you're sitting at home, and I catch myself doing it too, and I'm watching a football game or a soccer game, or I'm like, what an idiot, why would you do that? But you don't get to do that when you're in the heat of the battle. And so it is putting yourself out there every time, and you could fail, and you could fail miserably, and that is really hard. So I appreciate you saying that.
And I would argue a lot of people for soccer, it's the most because there's a really personal way that you play, right? A lot of sports, it's like everyone pitches straight down the middle. I don't know that much about baseball, but I'm guessing. But there is a real emotional portion of soccer, which is everyone has their own creativity that they play with. Right. It's why people connect to it though.
Well said.
Well, thank you.
I love this. A little sharing circle. You were one of the first players to speak openly about mental health during their career, especially on the men's side. And fittingly, today is World Mental Health Day. Why was it important for you to talk about that in your book?
To help. So I spent 7 years in really intense therapy during the prime of my career. And I was able through that process to heal a lot of deep wounds, particularly around my relationship with both my parents and what that was like growing up. And having the ability to really open up and lay everything out there for another human being is really hard at first, really hard. But then I got really comfortable doing it, and the feeling after was incredible. So every time I would leave that office, Juliet's office, I would be exhausted. And half the time I'd be bawling by the end of it. Half the time she'd let me just lay on the couch and take a nap until I was ready to go home. But being able to share that helped me heal. And I would always think to myself, I want other people to be able to heal too. Because it's so powerful. And I've been able to live a completely different life than I otherwise would have because of that. And I want people to be able to experience that. Depression's really difficult. It's really dark. And the problem with it is you never know who's dealing with it. I can promise you someone in this room is going, yeah, that's me right now. I promise you. And you won't know, and you'll never know. Unless they're willing to share it or at least address it and deal with it and face it. But it's really nasty. And I don't want people to suffer because it's not fun.
And you've been so open and candid about these dark moments that are in the book, but I want to know, did you get to revisit some light moments that brought you a lot of levity and joy? Can you tell us about that?
I can tell you some fun ones. Kids, cover your ears. I was recounting a story today. So after the Algeria goal in 2010, thank you.
Go USA.
So I talked earlier about my therapist referring to me as a reluctant superstar, but for one weekend when I got back home, and I go into this a lot in the book, and it was a fun weekend, I allowed myself to embrace it. And so the weekend after I got back, we were playing away to the New England Revolution, and Bruce Arena, hey, what's up, Chingy? I just saw you. The New England Revolution, we were playing away, and Bruce allowed me to stay home for the weekend. And Mike McGee found a way to stay home too. And I think
Fox? I'm not shocked.
I think Omar Gonzalez was like on yellow card suspension or something. So Friday afternoon, I was like still on the high of the Algeria goal, and I sent them a text and I just said, Vegas, ? And they responded right away, let's go. So we got a Southwest flight and we went to Vegas for the weekend. And it's hard for me to accurately describe what it was like because I had been on the other side of the world, right? And we were in South Africa, and it was hard. At that time, no social media the way it is now. You didn't know how people were receiving it back home. But man, when we got to Vegas, there couldn't have been too many more recognizable faces in that moment. And that's what mega famous people deal with all the time. But we were treated like kings all weekend, and it was insane.
Can we get specific stories, or is that not for the?
I'll tell you more later.
Valid.
We have children here.
Listen, you do this to me all the time. Oh, Taylor Swift, and we were on stage, not big deal. And then you
were on stage with Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Correct.
And then she moves on in the conversation.
Well, I mean, I can give stories about it, but this isn't about me today.
I want to hear that one.
Yeah, again, moving around.
Oh, gosh. Okay, fine. So one time, I was on stage with Taylor Swift, doing as one does after you win the World Cup. And I was up there. It wasn't a slight.
No. It was,
okay.
You're good.
No.
Okay, so up there just dancing, probably had a little too much to drink, minus the probably. And Heidi Klum was actually on stage with me as well.
Heidi Klum was on stage?
Heidi Klum, yes. And yeah. So anyways, we were just like up there. I was going nuts. Heidi Klum was in 6-inch heels, and I totally booty bumped her, and she almost fell off the stage. And I think she was pretty upset about it, and definitely let me know.
That's amazing. What a story.
Fair. I totally get that. You're in 6-inch heels, and I'm acting like a fool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Landon, do you want to tell us any more stories?
I don't have any. Well, I didn't win a World Cup, unfortunately.
Have you watched the video of the fans reacting to the Algeria goal? I will be honest, I watch it all the time. How often do you?
So the next morning after the goal, we walked into, there was like a media hub center for US Soccer, one of the rooms in the lodge we were staying at. And I was walking by to breakfast, and Michael Cameraman grabbed me and he said, "You have to see this." So we went in, and again, this is 2010, so social media not the way it was, the internet not the way it was, and we're on the other side of the world. So we're not really connected to what was going on back home. And we sat down and we watched the video, and we were both just crying, and like we couldn't believe that people at home were experiencing soccer in that way. I never would have imagined. And it gives you the sense of power in pride for your country. Because a lot of those people were not soccer fans. They weren't. They were after that day.
Yeah.
But they weren't soccer fans going into it, but they were experiencing it just the way we were. We were doing it on the field, but they were experiencing it the same way, going through the same emotions, and it was really awesome.
Chills. I got chills.
Same. I was just thinking that.
And hopefully 2026 is going to be the same, right?
Amen. Amen.
Before we get to 2026, though, after that, you took a sabbatical in 2012, which was unique. 2013, sorry, and not something that we had seen in sports. Walk us through a little bit how that came about and your thought process now looking back on it and what it meant for your life and your career.
One of my regrets is not being more honest in the moment, and maybe not being more aware in the moment exactly why I needed that. There was something in my gut telling me I needed a break. And I didn't realize, and this is also, I go into this really in depth too in the book. I didn't realize that I was on the verge of maybe something very serious. And I needed the break, or it might not have ended well. And so I wish I could have put my finger on that more in the time. And then also just been more honest, not just publicly, but also privately with people, with coaches and members of the Galaxy and the national team, and just been more forthright with that. And I think it probably would have alleviated a lot of damage that was done. But looking back, I didn't have a choice. The alternative was not good. And so it needed to happen.
You said at the beginning of this you loved playing soccer, and other things came from that. And soccer, I've heard you talk on your shows as well about exercise and what it means and how it makes you feel. But soccer seems unique for people in the ability to connect and to find happiness and joy. And we've done work on the show with the Soccer Forward Foundation, which US Soccer is pushing resources out to many people so that they can get connected to the game and get involved. Why is soccer unique in its ability to help people, especially on Mental Health Day, and the ability to maybe sort of stem that gap?
Yeah, I mean, it changed my life, right? There's a man back there who's a great friend of mine who grew up in Hawaii and was connected to another human who grew up in Southern California in some small little diverse town in Southern California, and it has the ability to change your life. And that doesn't mean you have to be a pro to do that. I mean, the kids I played with growing up were Samoan, Tongan, Mexican, Honduran, El Salvadorian. It exposed me to things I may have never otherwise been exposed to. And I was talking to Ange and some of you guys backstage about Soccer Forward and what it's doing. You don't know what life you're going to impact, right? But getting people into this beautiful game is going to impact lives. You don't know where it's going to happen or who it's going to impact or how, but it is happening. And I love what US Soccer is doing with Soccer Forward. Ange was saying this is the first time that an initiative like this has taken place prior to an event happening. Right. Usually the event happens and then you have you leave some legacy. But US Soccer is really being proactive now in every city that we go to in the lead up to the World Cup in helping communities either start soccer in a school, for example, or getting kids to play, or building courts, or hard courts that kids can play on, or soccer fields that kids can play on. And I'm 100% behind it because I was that kid who benefited from it.
And to switch gears a little bit, I've recently retired, which I think you have done a few times in soccer.
You'll be back.
Yeah, just a few times. I was wondering, since you have retired multiple times, do you have any advice for players like me who are just hung up the boots or are hanging up the boots?
Good question. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. As someone told me, most people don't get to choose when they retire, right? Like, you're fortunate if you get to choose. Most of the time, they just tell you you're done. And we are fortunate for that. But it is hard because you've known one thing your whole adult life and your whole life as a kid, right? So it's the challenge is you're never going to find that thing that that brings out that fire and emotion and competitiveness.
Wait, you mean to tell me I'm not going to get another job where 25,000 people every single week are
Correct.
going to cheer me on?
And tens of millions are watching you, and
Damn it.
it just doesn't. And that's the hard part, because that becomes like addictive, right? Like, or addicting. Every weekend you're going out and performing, and yes, there's fear and there's some anxiety around it, but it's also like, it's very enthralling, right? And so that is the hard part. You're fortunate because you're clearly very bright and smart, and you're going to have a million options to do whatever you want. A lot of players,
We should have Landon on every show.
I know, he's just so nice to us.
no, a lot of players sadly don't think about it, or they don't have other unique skill sets and so then there's a real challenge, and it's I think incumbent upon all of us to make sure that we're helping people. And I think there's much more awareness now around athletes and what life is after you play, because a lot of athletes really, really struggle with that.
Including coming back.
including
Sometimes
coming
that
back.
happens too.
Yeah, and
And then coming back again.
my reasons were probably unique. I think some people actually just miss the playing. I didn't miss the playing. But there were unique circumstances and reasons. But it was nice to actually keep playing in different ways, even as I got older. But damn, it's hard, man, when you get older. It's so hard.
Yeah, the knees get creaky.
Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah. So after you retired for the final time, you got into coaching. Sorry. I'm sorry. You got into coaching first with the men's side and then with the women's team in San Diego, the San Diego Wave. And I was just wondering, big picture, what is the biggest difference between the men's game and the women's game?
It's a great question. So let me just say first, the biggest difference in coaching men versus coaching women. So someone said this to me, and it was so true, and it just like the light bulb went off. They said, let's say you're in a locker room at halftime, and the coach walks in, and it's a men's team, and you say, you guys have not been good enough, needs to be better, not good enough. All the guys are going, yeah, he was bad, he was bad, he was bad, he was bad. Conversely, the women are going, oh shoot, I was terrible, right? And it was really, when someone said that to me, I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense. And it just shows you like the level of awareness that women have as compared to men, and internalizing and looking at themselves first, and then the male ego of being like, yeah, he sucks, versus like, I didn't do anything wrong. It was really fascinating. So that was part of it. The other part, and I don't know if you'll appreciate this in the same way, because I got to see both, but my first meeting I had with the women, after about like 12 or 15 minutes, in everything I'd ever known as a professional, is guys' minds will like start to wonder, and you're like, whatever. So you have to stop talking and be like, all right, we'll get back to this. And so I did that like the first day with the women, and they were all kind of like, give us more. Like and I was like, oh, you want more info? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So we'd sit in meetings for like 45 minutes, and they were on every word, wanted every detail. And after like 10 minutes, the guys are like, all right, let's go train, or like, can we watch TV, or like whatever, and it was so fascinating to see. And it's obviously I'm generalizing, but it was really interesting to see.
I've definitely been in some of those like 45 to an hour and 15 minutes. So can confirm what he says is true.
It's amazing.
But taking your playing days, like you've been in it. You've been in the locker rooms. You've been in tough moments. You've been in a space where the coach is like, Landon, this isn't good enough. I need you to step up your level. How did you take that experience as a player and use it when interacting with the San Diego Wave players?
Yeah. The hard part about coaching is if you haven't been around the players for a long time, you don't know how they're going to react. When you've been around a player a long time, you know exactly what you can say, what boundaries you can push, what lines you can cross and can't cross. When you don't know the players well, it's hard, because the Wave was challenging because I think I started in August and it was over in October, November. So you only have a few months and you're still trying to get to know each other while you're trying to get results. So that was challenging. When you have more time and more years with people, you're more comfortable. And same with you, like the more you know a coach, you know where you can go, where you can't go, what you can say, what you can't say. So that's a big part of it. And I think it ties in a lot to, honestly, to the men's national team right now with Pochettino, right? And you can see it happening in real time, that he is still trying to put this puzzle together and also understand what ingredients he has in order to make this meal, right? And so you're seeing it happen, and that just takes time. And when you're a national team coach, it's way different than being a club coach. A club coach, you're with them every day,
Right, yeah.
6 or 7 hours every day. You see everything. When you're a national team coach, you see them for a couple days a month at most. So it's really challenging.
Let's talk about this team, and we're going to do some fan questions as well, so everyone think about what you would ask. But this is a game against Ecuador, Australia in the next game. This is, the run-up. Like, we are into this final stretch. I'm wondering, because you talked about 2002 and you and Beasley maybe not knowing better. Feels like for many of these players that was 2022.
Yeah.
What do you see as these players have gotten older, matured, and this team has started to shift coming into 2025?
Well, the proof will be in the pudding next year, for sure, right? But you have seen definitely a level of maturity in a lot of them, just in games and how they approach games. But the ultimate test for us, you know this well too, is every 4 years, right? People, they can play great tonight, have a great result, but you're going to get judged on what happens next year. And so I think that's what all of us are so eager to see. And it's going to be fascinating because, in my opinion, there's 2 ways to really capture non-soccer fans. It's either a deep run into the tournament, which is what happened in 2002, or it's an iconic moment that grabs people. And hopefully next summer it's both. If it's a deep run with I'm like getting crazy goosebumps, with a crazy, like, Christian scores some amazing goal, whatever, the roof will blow off because people are so excited for this, and it's gonna be in your face everywhere. All you're gonna see is the World Cup all summer, all year leading up to it. And so that's the hope, because that's transformative. That's transformative for us.
Is there someone in this team that you would have most wanted to have played with?
Oh, Christian, by a mile. By a mile. I mean, his ability, like watching him every week, and his ability to make really high level plays is crazy. And it seems like every week there's something new he does, and you go, damn, I didn't know he could do that. I didn't know he had that in the bag. And he's in the prime of his life, the prime of his career, and it's been really fun to watch. I would have loved to play with him. Yeah.
We would have loved to watch it. Maybe
Too
another
old.
return
Now I'm
from
younger.
retirement.
Maybe I can get out there.
Listen, the hair looks great.
Thank you.
Landon Donovan, everyone. So we're excited for this game. We have some fan questions that we're going to be asking.
Hi, Landon, huge fan. I wanted to ask about Gio Reyna, because I feel like whenever pundits talk about Gio, they talk about him in terms of potential, in terms of talent. But when we think about last year's Nations League, he won Player of the Tournament. He was crucial in us winning the 2023 Nations League. Why do you think it is that the media doesn't frame him as someone who's delivered for the national team, and they instead choose to talk about his potential? And why is it that you feel like not enough people talk about his stock with the national team? Thank you.
You're saying you're saying why don't people talk about him having that he's been successful?
Yes, yeah, it feels like they only talk, they never talk about him as someone who's had stock with the national team, just in terms of potential.
Yeah, I think this goes back to expectations. And the reality for Gio is he is supremely talented, right? And you could argue one of our most talented ever on the men's side. You can make that argument. I think where people are frustrated is, and this part of it is not his fault, certainly the injuries, right? Because it's limited his ability to just be on the field and play. And then also then just not, I guess, putting himself in situations where he can play soccer, right? And it's particularly relevant to me because at 17, I moved to Germany, to Leverkusen to play. And I went to Germany to play soccer. I didn't go to Germany to learn the culture or eat the food or hang out with people. I went to play soccer. And after a year and a half, and Rich knows this very well, I called him and I said, I'm not going to get a chance to play here. At the time, I thought I should have been playing. In retrospect, no chance. It was nowhere near good enough. But I said, I just want to play soccer. That is, I am a soccer player, right? I'm not a soccer practicer. I'm not a soccer trainer. I'm a soccer player. I want to play soccer. And so I made a move to MLS, which many people probably disagreed with and didn't think I was living up to my potential and whatever. I just wanted to play soccer. And so that's part of, I think, the challenge with Gio too is, and I'm not behind the scenes, I don't have all the context, I don't know how much of it is in his control or not. But we just want to see him play because sometimes he does things where you go, nobody else does that for our team. Nobody does. So has he had some success? Yes. And he had some amazing success at Dortmund, but we just want to see more of him. And that's the reality. It's not like we dislike him or we just want to see him more. We're excited by him.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great
Nice.
question.
Can we get another one? Oh, we got one right here. All right, go for it.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey.
Sometimes you see scrutiny out there with the men's national team a little bit about where there's maybe a feeling club over the country. And two parts of that a little bit to where people are feeling to be elite at the top level, you have to go overseas to be able to play versus a homegrown kind of, growing up here. And you've done both obviously in your career. Do you feel that that's obviously still the case, or can you still be successful in the US and going up through MLS and growing there, or do you have to go overseas to be at that elite level?
Well, I'm living proof that you can play in MLS and still succeed, right, with the national team. That's a very individual decision, and I don't see it one way. People want to go play overseas or in Europe and do that, great. What I always say, I say this on the podcast almost every week, as long as you are playing, not in training every day, not getting 5 minutes here or there, as long as you are playing, I don't care where you are, what you're doing. Whatever makes you happy and you want to live there or play there or whatever, great, but you got to be playing. You're a soccer player, you got to be playing. The first part, the scrutiny, and what was
Club over country.
Oh, club versus country. Yeah, this is a really good question. I've seen this dynamic change a lot on the men's side. And it's really interesting because it's the inverse on the women's side. And Kling can speak to this better than I can, but when I was coaching the women, it wasn't on our team, but on other teams in the league, players would definitely miss their club game for 3 weeks so that their little nagging knee injury or ankle could heal for the national team friendly in 3 weeks. And the club is paying your wages, right? So I saw that side of it and I was like, that's not healthy. And I'm seeing the inverse with the men a little bit where there's so much emphasis on their club teams, and I think they're declining the national team a little bit. And I don't like that either. And there has to be a balance. It's not fair to a club who's paying a guy millions of dollars to watch him go play for the national team all the time and not play for the club. That's not fair, right? So there has to be a balance, but I want to see players who are desperate to play for their country. That's what I want to see personally. And it doesn't mean that every game and every camp and that every player has to come in. I'm not suggesting that. I just want to see people who value the national team and want to represent the national team. I want to see that as a U.S. soccer fan.
All right, I think we have time for just one more question before we let Landon go.
Thank you. I'm the lucky one.
You're very lucky. I'm lucky.
First of all, thank you very much for coming today.
Pleasure.
I think everyone appreciates it, I know I do. And also for your advocacy for mental health, it's really meaningful.
Thank you.
My question is, since you've experienced fan culture as a player and now in leadership, what do you think truly builds the lasting connection between fans and team?
Such a great
Love
question.
this one.
Me too.
So the deepest connection I've ever had with a fan base was San Diego Loyal in San Diego in USL that no longer exists. The reason why is I spent 3 or 4 years prior to Loyal being launched in San Diego trying to help bring an MLS team to San Diego. And what that entailed was, my wife hated this, almost every weekend I was out at events, at bars, hanging out with people, hanging out with AO, hanging out with fans, trying to build new fans. Literally everywhere. It was almost like I was like a politician almost. But what happened is I built these really deep connections with people in San Diego, like really diehard soccer fans, and we had a really genuine connection. When San Diego Loyal started, guess who showed up to be a part of that connection? All these people I had met. So literally when I would walk out on game day at Torero Stadium, I saw all these faces in the crowd that I had seen for years now. Like when we would be hanging out at a bar 2 weeks prior. And so there was such a level of community and connection that I'd never experienced before. And I had amazing connection with Galaxy fans too, and Everton fans, and national team fans. Like amazing. It's a little harder with the national team because you come in, you're there for a few days and you leave, right? But that level of connection was really genuine. And it is part of the reason too why it's challenging now as a fan, I'm guessing, when you rarely see these players play, right? Because they're either in Europe, you can't see them, you can see them on TV. At least if you live in Austin, you can come watch Brandon Vasquez, you can come watch, Driussi when he's here, and you can have that connection, but it's hard now because these guys are gone all the time. And then a lot of times now, when they come in for the national team, a lot of times they don't play. They're injured. Tonight's another good example, right? So you just don't get to see them and have that connection to them. And that's a little bit frustrating for someone who used to spend, and Rich can attest to this, and Chingy knows this, we used to, after San Jose Earthquake games, I used to spend 2 hours walking around signing every autograph. And I think you guys used to do this all the time too. And it sucked. And it was tiring. But it was also like there was a beauty in it, like meeting people, saying hi, taking pictures with them, connecting with them. And I don't want to lose that. Like, I don't want us to lose that. I think that's valuable. And unfortunately, it's a little bit of the evolution of the sport. As it gets better and more popular, that kind of happens. But I'd like to see us try to keep that. I think it's valuable.
Great question. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you to everyone for being here, but most importantly, thank you to Landon Donovan.
Check engine, ABS, or maintenance light on? And O'Reilly Auto Parts is right around the corner. O'Reilly Auto Parts can help take the guesswork out of your vehicle's check engine, ABS, or maintenance light with O'Reilly Veriscan, a free service that only takes a couple of minutes to complete. You'll receive a free, easy-to-read report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans that have been verified by ASE-certified master technicians. O'Reilly Veriscan can identify the most likely problem with just one scan. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts can then recommend the parts and tools that you need to do the repair right the first time. And if you're not comfortable doing the repair yourself, they can recommend a local shop for you. Don't ignore check engine, ABS, or maintenance light. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today, a free service exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Thank you so much again to the fans in Austin who made it an incredible event. Our first ever live show. It was electric in that building. After the interview, everyone stayed around, hung out, took pictures with us, chatted with us, gave us their red card or play-ons, and resurfaced some throw-in debates, Kling, that I thought we had put to bed, but I will never step down from, so I feel okay about it.
Yeah, it seems like you're going to defend that to the death. You're going to be like 85 years old and still calling me about long throw-ins, and I will be coming back just as hard saying that they're still in the game for a reason, 40 years later or whatever. So it was so fun, you're right. I really, really enjoyed that atmosphere, and I've been in U.S. Soccer's ear for like the last weekend or whatever, just trying to be like, more live shows. Let's get more legends. Let's get Mia Hamm. Let's get, Alex Murray. Let's get everybody. David Beckham, if you hear this, we'd love to have you on. But I think it was really special to have the audience interact in a way that we don't usually get when we're recording like this, and to have it be around a legend of U.S. men's national team, Landon Donovan, was a super special night. And then we got to follow it up by watching some pretty good soccer afterwards too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Huge thanks to Landon for being so open with us and being vulnerable. He talked about how there's a part of it that helps him, but he hopes to be able to help anyone else. And if you remember during the show, we talked about it being Mental Health Awareness Day and the opportunity that soccer has to bridge a lot of gaps for people and help them connect with other people. The activity, the teamwork, so much of it can be good for your mental health. We mentioned the Soccer Forward Foundation. So for resources, you can go to www.ussoccer.com/soccerforward to learn more. And there is a lot of resources there to help you start teams in schools for different players of different ages, to learn more about the game, to get more involved so you can meet people through the game. There is so much good that can come from being around soccer. And it is a huge opportunity now for all these resources to be available to everyone. So go to the Soccer Forward portion of the US Soccer website for that. We have to finish up, though, with our big questions, and that is our Ask the Pros, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This is where you can ask a question for me, for Kling, or for Ale Bedoya when he's back, and we'll get back to you and answer it on the show. And we start with you, Megan, with Christina from Hoboken, who says, do you think the college soccer system still makes sense as a primary development path for elite women's players, or has the pro game caught up?
Okay, Christina from Hoboken. I appreciate this one. I think when I was going up through the ranks, college soccer was the only business in town. You had to go to it. There really wasn't that much pay, so you had to have this like whole backup plan in a college degree. And there was also some really good soccer situations and teams within that sort of landscape. And now what I think is great is that there's not just one size fits all. It's more of a buffet, and you can kind of figure out what's right for you, what's the best pathway for you personally and individually, and then choose that and go forward. That way, like, you have all these different examples now. Like, look at Ali Sentnor. She went to UNC, had a great college career, was drafted, I think, top 3, maybe first into the NWSL. And she's having an incredible career already in with the national team. So you have still that kind of college pipeline, but then you also have players like Olivia Moultrie and Hutton who went a different direction, and they kind of grew up within the clubs, the Portland Thorns and the Kansas City Current, and now are regular starters on their team in the NWSL and in the USWNT system. So I just don't think that there's one way to get there. There's just so much more opportunity for young women these days. And to me, that's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. The game changing, but still college soccer, a huge force. And a lot of opportunity for young players to figure out their path. As you mentioned, those players are hoping their path takes them to the national team, which takes us to our next question from Jeremy in Oklahoma City, who for me says, with how the USWNT has evolved post-World Cup, are we seeing a new era of tactical flexibility, or is it still a work in progress? Under Emma Hayes, I think you would say it's still a work in progress, because as Kling would like me to know, Pro athletes are always trying to get better. You're always trying to win a World Cup, although they did win a gold medal. But I think with Emma, it's interesting because you sort of had this fast pace. What's our best 11? Triple espresso comes in, you win a gold medal. And then very few of those players have been consistently a part of the national team setup since that moment. And so you have had so many new players come in. You have built depth. And I think you're still working on it because there isn't really an 11 that is cohesive and knows how to play off each other perfectly because they haven't had enough time to work on it. I will say, I think a lot of the players are still put in to the profiles of what we consider our best 11. And so I wouldn't say the depth right now is, okay, can you change up from 3 in the back to 2 in the back to 4 in the back? Can we change from a number 10 who's attacking going forward to one who's pulling the strings in possession a little bit more? It feels more like if Trinity Rodman's unavailable, Alyssa Thompson can step into her shoes, but it's similar like to like more than tactical flexibility. But having a larger player pool of players capable of playing at a high level will only give Emma more options. And I would expect now, as she has said, we're done looking at new players. Now it's about drilling into the players we have. I think the next year will about be creating that cohesive unit going forward. Kling, is there anything I missed?
I mean, honestly, there is still a bunch of time. It's not like the Men's World Cup that's in 8-9 months. It's 2 years till the Women's World Cup. And so I think that gives Emma and the team plenty of time to bring some of those players who've been on maternity leave or out due to injury back in, bring them back into the fold and make things a bit more cohesive. I do love how you suggested a back 2 in your tactical analysis in that. So I think that we should probably call up Emma and let her know that we have a new idea.
Listen, with the attacking talent on the U.S., why are you wasting space on more defenders? I was told that fullbacks are no longer relevant in the game. Didn't you tell me that?
Just wait. Listen, Jedi and I had a whole debate in one of our other episodes about outside back, and I have a really great hot take about it. I'll let you all listen to it on that episode, but essentially we had to agree to disagree to continue the interview.
Let me ask you this, and then we'll move on. This is my Ask the Pro. Back 5 or back 3? Do you care what it's called?
Well, it just really depends on how the system flows, doesn't it? And who's pressuring who. I do think that if you're playing wing backs, it is a back 5 because if you know the ball's on the near side and your wing back has to go pressure, then the other wing back slides in and creates a back 4. So you're never really playing with 3 except I guess in attack, but a lot of attacking formations will morph into a back 3 anyways in attack. So I don't think that I've seen a true back 3 in a women's system in a while.
I use them interchangeably all the time, and everyone's like, well, this is what they're playing. It's like, those are the exact same thing, and every single phase of the game is different, and every moment of the game is different. So, like, we're talking about maybe at kickoff, maybe in one build-out, maybe in one set pressure against. Like, there are very few moments where you're actually setting that, and I will stand by that along with my throw-in take. If you have a question, though, that you want to ask the pros, drop our partners at Westwood One a DM on Instagram at Westwood One Sports. We will see you next week on the U.S. Soccer Podcast. We have another very special episode coming up. It is Kling in conversation with USWNT legend and one of her good friends on the verge of retirement, Alyssa Nair. So follow us wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, and never miss an episode.